City Tech. Folks, we talk all the time in the new year, nothing's going to change, that digital world is loud and crowded. So you need professionals that can help you get your message out to your current and future clients. So go to oakcitytech.com, tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Each week on Triangle BNI, we bring you a local small business success story. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle, Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. About 32 chapters and about 500 members meet every week. And our goal is to help each other grow our businesses. And our special small business local success story this week, Jenny Midgley, which with the Content Marketing Collective. Jenny does storytelling, branding, photography. She helps you get your message out. We're going to talk a lot about what she does. Jenny's also a member of RD24 Apex Business Builders. They meet Thursdays at 8:30 a.m. in Apex. They're online right now, but if you want to meet some good small business owners that can help you grow your business and get some little nuggets from, that group is the one to visit. Jenny, how are you today?
I am great, Mike. Thank you so much. How are you doing today?
Doing good, enjoying this massive snowfall in the South. I just can't wait. I saw where some schools were already closed, so that's the South for you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Your kids went to school today?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah.
I know you're glad to get them out of the house.
Yeah, I mean, we were ready to have them go back for but even if it was like a remote learning day, we would have been okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, happy to. I mean, I'm okay with it because I come to my office. My husband's the one that has to deal with
Yeah. So, but that's one of the things we're going to get at. My two kids are grown and gone. So,
it.
for folks like you and Scott, with working from home, not from home, two kids in school, not in school, we'll get to that in a little bit because I'm just fascinated by the logistics and more importantly, the patience factor of the parents.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're going to talk about what you do right now. Branding is the common theme with everybody you work with, whether it's digital marketing, it's photography, um, storytelling, and branding. So, if most of us were asked what our brand is, would we answer correctly?
No.
And where do we what? And I'm with you. No, I'm totally with you. When I wrote this question, like, okay, I know the answer. So why do we think one thing, or what do we normally think our brand is, but it really isn't?
So people think that's actually a really good question. It's a complex question. So a brand is the representation, right, of a company, of a message that goes out to the world to sell a service or a product, right? So the brand is like the who, right? The marketing is the what, or the service is the what, and then the marketing is the how you tell people what it is. So most people know branding is one of those words that gets like thrown around, right? So like I see a lot of promotional products, companies that like I do branding, and I'm like, but you don't. Um, what you do is provide a um physical, like a tangible representation of that company on a piece of something, right? So, whether it's like a T-shirt or a sticker or a cup, right? So, like my lovely girls who do stuff cup here. Um, so the brand, like, so this is a really this is one of my favorite definitions of it, right? So, Aaron Orndorff, from Shopify Plus, very smart guy. So he says that personal branding is the story that people tell about you when you're not in the room, right? I take it one step further, and when I talk to my clients and when I talk to the world at large, a brand is the story that you choose to be told about your person if it's a personal brand or your company if it's a business brand. So that's where I think people kind of lump it in, right? It's like saying you're a psych major and an English major
Yeah.
in college, right? It's very broad. And then you just kind of have to have a uh you have to have a guiding force that kind of leads you to where you're going in your next steps.
Are well, I would imagine over time you have, and let's go national first and come back to one of your better client stories
Hmm.
that you want to tell. So nationally, what brands tell us who they are when they do their branding correctly?
Um, so Target is one of the best examples of this, right? Because they have embodied inclusivity. They are not trying to be the cheapest out there. You know, when you walk in, you're not going to, it's not the cheapest. Um, but you also know that there's value in it, right? There's value in the way that they culturally they train their team members. There's a feeling that they have taught their consumers to expect when they think about Target. Not even like walk into the Target, right? Think about Target to the point that, I mean, in 2021, what did they do? They collaborated with Monopoly and created a Target Monopoly, right? That is Santa left under our tree, right? Like Santa gives us games every year, and it's the experience of the board game, right, is fully representational of the branding of Target, right? It's literally you're shopping through the store, you're going through, you're getting your savings, right? But it's really pinpointing down, right, how you feel about something. Starbucks is another great one, right? Like, at McDonald's, you know what to expect, you know what to what no matter where you are, no matter where you are in the country, you know that when you go to that place, your expectations will be managed. And if they're not, right, you know that they're not. You know that the messaging is off. You know something, right? Or it's either exceptional and extraordinary or it misses the mark, right? So like there's a Starbucks in Brooklyn in Sheepshead Bay that has a menu in English and in Cyrillic because there's a high Russian population in this
Oh,
part of Brooklyn, right? So you walk into that one, you're like, wow, this is super cool. They have a menu in Cyrillic, and we're in New York City, right? So it's augmenting that brand. It's augmenting the messaging that you would automatically expect when you walked into a Starbucks versus like, when you get really crappy service and that hurts the brand, right? So that's where it's all of those things. It's the feelings, it's the thoughts, it's the what you when you envision even walking into that place. That's the branding.
and going back to the fast food world, I know, and I'm a McDonald's guy, always have been, but I know exactly what I'm getting when I either go inside or go through the drive through.
Mm-hmm.
I know if somebody's going to talk to me or not. I know all that. Just like when I go through Chick-fil-A, I know I'm going to hear my pleasure.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the brand for them. And I've noticed over the last couple of years that some of these other restaurants, when you say you put in your order and you say thank you, some of them are starting to say my pleasure. But
Mm-hmm.
it can be, but you're right, that and that's a different emotion when you leave the go through line and you order and somebody go and you say, I say thank you, and they go, my pleasure or our pleasure. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, but again,
Mm-hmm.
it can be that simple.
Yeah. Yep.
And I go back to the day when Nike, when their tagline was just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are many different ways you can brand. You can brand instantly on a billboard, or like you were talking about with Target, you can brand through experience and over time. So there's not
Mm-hmm.
really one way to do it, correct?
Right. That's because it's that representation, right? That's the emotions that it evokes, the feelings, the thoughts, the because a lot so gratification starts with anticipation. So it's how do you and people make buying choices based on emotion. Like you may need something, but ultimately that choice of purchase comes down to how you feel in the moment. And so we can talk about, you know, till we're blue in the face all of these strategies of like, you can, write, put this messaging, this font, this color, this, all this logo, this image that goes with it, right? The pictures that go with it, all of these things. But it's all designed with the intent to evoke emotion from the consumer at the point of purchase. And it takes 7 to 13 touches for them to make that decision, right? So when you're talking about, let's say you need a washer dryer, right? And in your house, when you were growing up, your parents always went to Sears for their appliances, right? So what's happened? There's no more Sears, right? Like Sears, there's fewer, right? The big box stores, the Walmart, the Lowe's, the Home Depot, all of those things, right? But at Sears, they always had Kenmore, and you always had Kenmore or Maytag washers and dryers, right? When you were a kid growing up. So, that's going to be, because that memory evokes nostalgia. When you're thinking about your childhood home and let's say you've never had to go out and buy a big appliance like this before, right? That's where it starts. It starts with that internalized messaging from when you were like weenie to now. So, when you think about that, when you approach all of your selling from that space, rather than a very perfunctory, like, I just have to get stuff out there and I need to have this, very rigid kind of mindset, then you're going to end up being much more successful, because what you're doing is you're reaching out to your consumer and meeting them where they're at, and being a real human, right? That's why business branding is so important to, where they really tie into these emotional experiences with the commercials, with the the pictures throughout the stores, right? Everything is meant to evoke some kind of emotion, usually positive. I mean, I don't like to label, qualify emotions as good or bad, because emotions just are. But it's literally a neurochemical reaction in your brain, and that's what the marketing is doing. That's what the advertising is doing. So when we think about how we, as from the big business brands to the small tiny mom and pops, how we affect our consumers' decision is how we make them feel, and it starts with their first interaction with us.
One of the first branding campaigns I remember, speaking of growing up, was Coca-Cola. It was always have a Coke and a smile.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like drive down to Target or Food Lion or Winn-Dixie or whatever it was and get a 6-pack. It was have a Coke and a smile. And then we saw the polar bears at Christmas with the Christmas
Mm-hmm.
tree and the Coke bottles and everything. And again, I'm a Coke drinker. My mom was a Coke drinker growing up, so I started drinking Coke. I don't drink much anymore, but in my heyday, when I would power down quite a few
Oh yeah.
Diet Cokes,
Yep.
that's kind of what, because there was nothing from Pepsi back in the day. I mean, Coke owned it
You're right, and it's so funny that you say that, because you are a native North Carolinian, right? And
long
Pepsi
enough.
was
Yep.
founded in North Carolina.
Yep.
So the fact that Pepsi didn't catch up, right? It was Cheerwine. You know what Cheerwine was, right? But it was still like, I know. My
Yeah.
son loves Cheerwine. But you know what I mean? It's those regional things that, like, and Coca-Cola's from Atlanta. They're not far away from one another,
Mm.
right? But the fact that the Coke did such a better job with their branding, until Pepsi rebooted in the 80s, and then it was like a whole thing. But um, I think that there's, that is really telling, right? That a native North Carolinian, where now everything is Pepsi, North Carolina, founded in North Carolina. If you're in North Carolina, that's all the branding you see is about Pepsi and how it was founded in the Carolinas. Because they realized they missed the mark. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of native North Carolinians who are Coke drinkers.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I know that we have some business owners who listen and watch the show here.
Mm-hmm.
If they haven't gone about their branding process yet, or think hey, I tell people and it could be like in the insurance world with State Farm, or we are in good hands with Allstate, and like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, versus Geico and Liberty Mutual. And some of these are now, it's all about pricing. And again,
Mm-hmm.
that's fine, because it's like you said, emotion is what it is. And if you want the cheapest, hey, You know the 2 or 3
Mhm.
places to call. But if somebody's starting, so they're going to watch this show and they're going to think about this and go, what is mine? What are 1 or 2 things they should jot down to look at, or how do they kind of get this started figuring out what their brand is?
Oh, okay. So that's a really good question. Um, the way that you start figuring out what your brand is you go ask 10, 15 people what you do.
I love this answer because none of us do that. It's that simple, but very few
Mhm.
of us do that.
You start with, if you're in a BNI, poll everybody in your BNI and
Mm.
say, tell me what I do, right? And I bet that if you are not clear on your branding and your messaging, that there is going to be a lot of confusion.
Mm.
And like, hi, I'm a marketer and I had a confusing message for a while because what I do is so um there are several components to what I do, right? I am a content marketing strategist and I do content creation and scheduling and I run a marketing collective. I am a brand and marketing photographer. I do headshots and branding and marketing for businesses, for websites and social media and whatever. I also have a podcast, right? So like all of these things, and then there are some in your audience who require a very concrete statement, right? Who need that to understand what you do. And then there's others that can pick up on the nuance, right? But the reality is that you're not going to know if your messaging is confusing until you ask people if your messaging is confusing.
Yes.
So the starting point is to either hire somebody to do an audit for you on your social media and website, and all of your materials, and in addition to that, or ask the people with whom you network with the most frequently to parrot to you what you do.
Yep. Yep. And you'll be people, and they should be prepared for different answers. But that's a good thing
Mm-hmm.
because, and I've always been a big fan of change because if for the right reasons, because a lot of times it means new information.
Mm-hmm.
COVID was a change. Hey, we got new information. All of a sudden, everybody sent home. But change is not always bad. So when you get new information, if somebody listening today goes out and asks 10 people, hey, what is it I do? And they get 4 different answers, that's an opportunity for
Oh,
them to understand,
absolutely.
okay, I must not be
Mm-hmm.
clear enough explaining what I do. And I'm the same thing with you in the coaching world. And I just really don't like the word coach because it doesn't explain.
Right.
And so I'm working on that as well. But again, in your world and I think of you as content
Mm-hmm.
and branding. I mean, we've known each other for a while. And those are the 2 words, no matter what else you do, that's what I connect you with. So when somebody asks me, hey, I need to work on this, you're always top of mind for me because very few people use either or both of those words together.
Right. And so, and I appreciate that. And I thank you for this because this tees it up really well. So, one of the ways that I figured out how to um, clarify my own messaging was in that, when people are like, how do I help like, so here's another great way. What are some ways that I can help you grow your business? Right. And so I say, well, content marketing is my jam, right? So I am a content marketer. The buzzwords that you will hear my clients where the pain points are they're overwhelmed with their social media. They have a website, but it's not converting. They haven't ever had professional photos taken for their business.
Yeah.
Y'all, you, I like, even if it's, a virtual session where we're teeing you up with somebody with an iPhone or an Android, a Google Pixel camera, I will help you get that photo to put on your LinkedIn so that you look presentable and it's not some random selfie. Okay. Um, because we can do that nowadays. But those are the pain points, right? So when you think about your brand, right, and who you're trying to reach, you have to think about where the customer is struggling, where is your consumer struggling, so that if you do have a confusing message, all you have to do is tell people these are the kinds of words that you're going to hear, right? Because you know what clients you serve. So these are the words that you're going to hear. You're going to hear overwhelm. You're going to hear they don't know, a lot of lack of knowledge, a lack of awareness, wanting to be more visible, frustrated because all of these the frustration is a huge one for me. Or they don't have time, right? Like I have a component to my business where we create and schedule all of your content for you. And it's not a oh, you get 2 posts a week for $99. Like no, that's not like you get what you need to grow on the specific platform where your people are, and then we build from there. But you're not going to get anywhere unless you have visibility at least one place. So we concentrate on that first, and then we help you grow from there. But we're not like, 2 posts a week is not gonna an audience growth make, like it's not gonna do anything for you. So there's a whole lot of components of how you represent that, but it's about telling the people how you help, who you serve, and what are their struggles.
Because we all have problems and we're all looking for answers, whether it's in
Mhm.
life, in business, with health, with money, with whatever.
Yeah.
Why am I going to listen to you? Oh, you offer a solution to one of my problems.
Right.
Oh, let's talk some more. So I'm with you on that. And we're all, most of us are bad on using the corporate lingo instead
Oh
of
yeah.
I buy ugly houses. Love that tagline on those little
Hmm.
signs you see at street corners. But you know what? It says it all. So I got an
Yeah.
ugly house I can't sell. I'm going to call you because you have a
Right.
solution to my problem.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is like you have to feel confident in just in letting go of the expectation that it has to be some like perfectly crafted that you have to use your link, like when you start using your industry jargon, you sound like, and I say this with love, you sound like an a-hole,
Hmm?
right? Like you're no longer speaking and serving your consumer or your prospective client. At that point, when you fall into that industry jargon because it's your comfort zone, that's where you need to say, stop. And I'm going to get some data, and I'm going to go back, and I'm going to start talking more about to whom I'm serving versus me.
Yep.
Because you can say, like, this is one of the things, and you and I have talked about this at length before about the whole elevator pitch thing, that like I can say, right? I'm a content marketing strategist, headshot brand and marketing photographer. I work with uh, businesses, sales professionals, and entrepreneurs and create what content for their digital platforms. Great. That's what I do,
Yep.
right? That's a quick 5-second boom, pop it out. So in my BNI, we do a word of the week, word of the day for each meeting. I rewrite on the fly my 60-second every week using the word of the day, right? And I mean, challenge me, I'm going to rise up.
Because
Right?
it's kind of what you do. Yeah. So,
Right. Like, oh, we're doing that. It's all good. I'm on board.
yeah.
I joke with them. I'm like, this is why I joined this BNI. So I could just,
Yep.
you know, squeeze my creative juices every week. But in reality, right, if you have such um a perfectly crafted and totally, you know, emotionless pitch,
Mhm.
people are going to tune you out. Nobody has to remember what I said. They just have to remember that I made them laugh and that I was creative. And
Yep.
that if I'm that creative on the fly doing my 60-second in front of my group and a visitor, then think about what I can do for you in your business, right? It's the same thing that you talk about. Tell me a story. Tell me a story, relate it back. So this goes back to what we started talking about with the hitting those emotional buttons. Storytelling makes you relatable. Storytelling about your clients, right, makes you relatable and shows off it positions you as a subject matter expert in whatever your world is, because you're sharing a success story, right? You're, even if it's not a success story, even if it's a way you said, you know what, I tried to help this person and I couldn't, but I found someone to go help them, right? That shows integrity, that shows that trustworthiness, that shows that you're somebody who is willing to let go in order to gain.
Yeah. And
So
I always love I'm with you. I love the storytelling, because in there, and I tell people, there's the solution that someone in that room is looking for.
yep.
Whether you're a realtor, hey, just wanted just Jim and Susie, we finally found the house they wanted. We looked at 32 houses last Saturday. Man, that tells me a ton about you as a realtor. If you're
Mm-hmm.
willing to cart two people around to 32 houses, but those are the things like that people are looking for. So I'm with you. I love stories,
Mm-hmm.
and they're more memorable than, the corporate lingo off your 4-color 3-panel flyer. I
Yep.
can read it. I don't want to listen to it. So we are here with Jenny Midgley, the Content Marketing Collective. Jenny is in RD24 Apex Business Builders. They meet Thursday mornings at 8:30. Right now, they're on Zoom. So if you want to meet some quality individuals in the Apex area, I recommend you go check them out. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. Folks, one of the things you can control, your mailing list. Facebook could cut you off. YouTube could cut you off. Everybody that owns something else could cut you off. So you want to find people like Oak City Tech. Jenny, we've talked about some things that she does as well. You want to find out what you can control to keep your message out there the way you want it. And so please go to oakcitytech.com. Tell Drago and his team that we said hi. All right, Jenny, story time. So, how does one go from a social work degree in Syracuse, New York, to branding and content in Apex, North Carolina?
Super glad that you asked that question. Yeah, so the short of it is that I grew up in Maryland. I went to Syracuse for undergrad and then for grad school. Got my master's in social work. I worked in healthcare for 20 years. And in the process, like, I met my husband, and then he got a job in DC, so we moved back, and then his company um shifted their deliverables, and so I was like, there's no way that both of us are working from home, because I was working remotely at the time. I was like, there's no way both of us are working from home in DC and paying the cost of living in DC. We're moving. Like, we're moving. um and through that we had a couple of kids, and so we moved down here because his company was based here. And then uh you know for me, my that's how we ended up in North Carolina. And we picked Apex because um we wanted somewhere that was we really liked Apex. Like, it's a cute little town, and we really, like, I live downtown now, and I don't want to live anywhere else. Even though my husband reminds me every other week that, like, didn't aren't weren't we gonna move to the beach? I'm like, but we would have to leave Apex. Like, why would, anyway. So we selected Apex for a number of reasons, but we love it here. And so but my story goes back to, like, I was really struggling. And I was struggling in my job because I had there was a leader in our organization who really was a bad manager. Like, all of the things that Brene Brown writes down is like, these are bad. These are not qualities of daring leadership. This person embodied all of those. So, um, I was fortunate in that the writing was on the wall, and that person ended up leaving, because I wasn't the only one that was feeling that way. But through that process, like, I was so uncomfortable and I was so unhappy, and I was miserable. So I kept trying to find a way out. And as I was finding ways out, um, I kind of landed back into photography, which is something I always loved and enjoyed, but it was a hobby. And I figured I had to turn it into a business, but we were in DC. It's a huge market, right? I mean, there's 11 million people just in the city center. There's 11 million people in the whole state of North Carolina, right? So, like, it's a big market. And so I had to learn marketing, because they don't teach you that in social work programs. They don't teach you that in undergraduate degree programs unless you're in a business degree program, right? They don't teach you about marketing. So I had to learn it from the ground up. And what I learned was that as I was talking to other people, a lot of people don't know about marketing. And so like, it was just kind of like I stayed in that lane and I took 10, over the course of 10 years, I learned all the things that I could learn on how to grow my own business. And then when we moved here, because I had done all the mistakes that a lot of new photographers do. I charged too little. I didn't value myself. I didn't value my time. Um, I didn't run my numbers. I had no idea about running numbers. I had no idea how to run an actual business. Um, and so when we moved here, I was like, forget it. I'm just not even gonna worry about it for now. Like I put away my camera. I didn't pick it up for 6 months because I was so burned out. And then I started slowly building my way back to it. I met with, and this is where I feel like I'm like, if you're gonna do it in a way, find a way to do it this way, right? Like it's not a right way or wrong way, but find a way that leads you on a path where you work with coaches and mentors and find people in the business community to help you learn the things that will guide you toward success versus spinning your wheels and doing, making all the mistakes about, taxes and, you know, P&L statements and permits and, budgets and all of those things. Um, and so that's kind of, it stumbled me back to the marketing and the branding because I figured out that's what I wanted to work with. I really enjoy working with business owners. I really enjoy working with sales professionals. And it's not to say that like I won't take pictures of your family. It's just not where my heart lies. Right? Like, um, could I photograph weddings?
Ooh,
Sure. Do I
ooh,
want to photograph weddings?
no.
No. Unless I'm a second shooter. Because you don't understand the freedom of being a second shooter. Like that is the best place to be. Because all you got to do is just you're snapping away the whole night, and then you hand off your card at the end, and you're like, yes. But um, that's really the only way you're going to get me at an event.
So who put the first camera in your hand and when was that?
Okay, so the first camp. So my parents, when I was growing up, they had this like giant bookcase. Like they had a lot of scan furniture. I don't know if you remember scan furniture. It was like Scandinavian or something. That's why it was called scan. And they had this like tall bookcase, and they had all these old cameras on it. And so I used to play with those when I was like 3, 4, 5. One of the stories about the cameras is like I literally got hit over the head with a camera because, but it was a little backwards. I was climbing up the shelves to get to this like my favorite camera, and I rocked the whole thing and everything fell, and then I fell back and I hit my head on a movie camera. And remember those old movie cameras had the square metal frames around the lens, and so I got like a 4-inch laceration in the back of my head. Um, and I didn't know until like I was near my parents and I started walking away, and my mom called me back because I had apparently had like blood dripping down my back. And I was most upset about the fact that it ruined my Gizmo t-shirt. Because I was wearing a yellow t-shirt that had a picture of Gizmo from Gremlins on the front. I loved Gizmo. But yeah, so that was you know, that was it was up close and personal with cameras from an early age.
What do you remember first taking pictures of?
Um, that's a good question. I don't actually.
Or when did it kind of start connecting that, oh, you know what, whether it's pursuing it as a hobby or a business, when did you kind of feel like, I really enjoy doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed doing it, and I wanted to learn more about the technical things. I remember when I was like a teenager, and then, but I also lived in the house where like you can't be a creative and make a living. You have to go to school and you have to get a degree and you have to do things that will, earn. So what do? I go become a social worker. Where with a master's degree, I was offered a job straight out of school at gross gross $22,000 a year. So like, why would I not be like, I, anyway, um, it's all good. But I managed to get that degree. I did it. Um, but what I so the creativity piece was always there, right? Like I am very high on the strategic thinking. I am 110% neurodivergent. I own that as part of my like process. I talk about it. Um, because fitting in that traditional world, right? So I found the jobs that made sense. I worked in hospitals. I worked in emergency rooms, where there's a fast paced, unpredictable environment that had predictable tasks to complete. So being a creative entrepreneur is very similar to that. And so it was when I kept going back to it, right? Like I kept going back to finding the camera and expressing myself that way throughout my 20s and then my 30s, and then just kind of blossomed that way.
Now I know Scott a little bit. I've known you
Hmm.
longer, but I know Scott a little bit. And I always like asking people on the show. So I will ask you, how did you and Scott meet? And do you both tell the story the same way?
We do not tell the story in the same way, I don't think.
Gee,
I
I'm
know how I
shocked.
tell it. We met on Match.com, and he was in his 3-day free trial. And I had been working this app. So, of course, I found him because I had been working the app for a while, unsuccessfully. But yeah, we met on Match.com, and I was going, like, we kind of we exchanged whatever. Like, he sent me pictures, and we were chatting back and forth. I was going out of town, and so I was like, no harm, no foul. I'll just go out with this guy, like whatever. Um, he We made the arrangements. He showed up 45 minutes late because he forgot his wallet and had to turn around and go home. And when he showed up, he was on his cell phone, like talking on his phone, and like waved at me. And I was like, who the F does this guy think he is to disrespect me like this? Whatever. And then two things happened. Number one, because I had locked my front door, so he had come around back when I was sitting on my back deck, and he just kind of like waved at me that way. And that's when I was like, this is gonna end very quickly. So I went through the house and I unlocked the door and I kind of like waved him that way. Two things happened. Number one, I had a very aggressive dog at the time, and when Scott walked into my house, the dog went and ran and just laid on the couch. Did not try to eat him. So I was like, what the hell? What was that? So Duncan didn't try to eat Scott, so that was a good thing. And then he came straight in and tried to fix my air conditioner and he took his shoes off when he walked in the door. So he took his shoes off, he had holes in his socks, and he tried to fix my air conditioner. And I was like, all right, maybe it's not that bad. And then we ended up talking for like hours and hours and hours and hours. And it was, yeah.
And where was the official first date?
Well, that night we played darts at this place that was near where I lived. And but like the official first date, um, yeah, we went and got frozen custard, and then we went and played darts and had a couple drinks. That was fun. But the official first date, I actually, hmm.
Well, let's go back to the dart night. Did he experience all that is Jenny on that night and realized, okay, I'm down for this?
Um, I mean, probably. So like it's really funny because one of the challenges that I've had, right, in being all that is Jenny, is that, there was an adjustment period of me owning that I can be this extra and not be rejected. And one of the challenges, right, is that um uh I experience rejection like not well. It's not a comfortable space for me. So I had to learn that I don't need to mask myself, and I don't need to I can own my extra and be all the Jenny that I can be, um in a way that is irreverent and funny and whatever. So yeah, I mean I think he got a lot of it that night. Um, and then a lot of it through, but I mean, I masked for quite a while until I felt confident and comfortable and trusted him enough so that I could really be myself.
And I
By then it
would
was too
bet,
late. I had already hooked him.
there you go. Yeah. I would bet on that night that you tried to beat his brains out in darts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I think why you and I get along so well is when I don't mind going into a room. I want to get people to talk, no matter
Hmm.
what it's about, and laugh and just enjoy themselves. Sometimes you're in the spotlight, sometimes you're not to do it. But I always tell people, and this goes back to your world. I always tell people, it's all about the content, baby. If people are talking and laughing, what do we care that they're talking and laughing about people picking on me? I welcome that, bring it, because that gives me a chance to shoot back. But it's just all about the content, just getting people comfortable and laughing. And so I don't mind being the one coming in, stirring things up a little bit. It's fun.
Right. And but there it takes some time to like get to that level where you feel confident enough that you can do that.
Mhm.
Right? So like there's I mean, I had a high um I spent a number of years with a high level of anxiety and panic even going into some. I mean, like, and that's one of the things I say, like, if you had told me 10 years ago that 12 15 years ago that I would have a podcast, that I would be front and center, feeling confident, feeling running a successful business, being all the extra Jenny that Jenny is, right? I would have just been like, I would have told you were lying. Like, there's no way, because I couldn't imagine it then, right? Like, the Jenny that was then is not, is just a component of the Jenny that is now. But it was really hard. And so for me to, there reached a point where I realized that my discomfort in putting myself in those situations was not going to be as bad as staying stuck where I was. And so pushing myself farther and farther, and finding the right supports and finding the right people to put in my corner, um, and trusting my instincts more, right? And cutting out those toxic people, and um, or not even making connections with them, or just keeping them like this. Good place to keep them. Um, was more about that's a larger component of my journey than learning the skills that I needed to be a strong marketer, or learning the skills, because I'm just intuitive and strategic. Like, that's just how I think. So embracing that, and embracing that I don't have to be like everybody else, right? Like, that's the I think the biggest part, and that's one of the huge, like, bombs that go off with my clients, is I give them permission to be themselves,
Mm.
right? We talk about, because they're like, well, I don't know what to post. I don't know what to say. People are going to judge me, blah, blah, blah. And the question is, but what is that going to do in reality, right? Like, so what if someone judges you? What does that say about them,
Yep.
right? So what if you put a typo out in your post for Christmas that you don't recognize for 10 days? Where you wrote Merry Christmas, Anne's Happy New Year,
Yeah.
because you were typing with your fat thumbs and didn't realize that you changed the D to an S and the Y
Yeah.
to a T. And then you're like, well, crap, let me fix that. Did it yesterday. It was a post from December 24th.
Yeah. And I'm with you, because the true friend pulls you aside. You go, Jenny, you swap the R and the I in Christmas. You go, oh, thank you. Versus the person that judges you on social media. God, I would never hire you. You can't even spell.
Right.
Why do you care? Again, we could go on and on for hours on this, but why do you care what that person says?
Right.
You shouldn't. So I'm with you on that, and just letting people be, because at the end of the day, they're buying you because there's 1,000 photographers
Mm-hmm.
and there's 1,000 social media people, but they're buying you because they connect with you, whether you had the 5 best answers to grow their business, or they just felt comfortable with you because they could be honest with you and say, Jenny, I just hate doing this. I don't want to tell anybody, but I just don't want to do that particular part of my business. And then
Mm-hmm.
you two sit down and you work it out, and they're like, oh my God, I can tell her anything.
I mean, pretty much. I've had clients walk away like, we'll go through. the process of kind of like getting digging deep into what is the challenge of putting out consistent content, or because sometimes we have to unravel, and that's where I pull my social work skills into play, where I talk to people about we sometimes have really intimate conversations, and they have to be willing to be vulnerable with me so that we can get to the meat of it, so that we can bust through some of that mindset stuff and get them to the point where they do feel comfortable making videos, or they do feel comfortable coming in here and we make some funny TikToks, or we do they get comfortable in making YouTube videos or going live on Facebook, whatever it is. um Sometimes we have to kind of do some myth busting and some mindset busting, and I've had clients cry with me. I've had clients be like super duper vulnerable and talk about things that they didn't even know were issues, that were blocks in the way of how they were marketing themselves. And so it has to be a trusting relationship. There has to be validation of the fact that there is going to be points of vulnerability, and it's going to be change is hard. I don't like it. I don't expect that anybody else is going to like it, right? I adapt to it really well, but that doesn't mean that I can be spontaneous, and I can do things on the fly. But that doesn't mean that when the quiet hours that I don't have to process it, and it's not a struggle for me, because it is. And so when I do have those realistic and intimate and vulnerable conversations with my clients, it's important. It's important work. And so being able to do that and help people through to the next step is huge for me. And sometimes just unblocking that and clearing out that those mindset blocks around personal branding and marketing and things like that is enough, that like I've had people that you know pay for a certain number of hours with me on retainer and don't even have time to work with me on the last 2 or 3 hours because they got so busy, because just unblocking that allowed them to go out there in a way that brought and attracted so much more business to them.
Yeah.
So
Earlier, you had mentioned your podcast. Want to talk about that for a quick seconds? It's
yeah.
Girls Who Do Stuff, with another one of our favorites, Sarah Madras. You guys talk, you ladies talk, you have people on your show that you interview who have an impact
Mm-hmm.
on different parts of life. So I know you've heard some wonderful stories. Speaking of tears and laughter, I'm sure you've heard some wonderful stories.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So we're a co-hosted interview show where we started out with like, we're going to talk to entrepreneurs in the triangle, and we're going to be, we're going to talk about how the not like what they do in their business and those things, but like really, the get to the nitty-gritty and have some of those more intimate and conversations. And our goal was like, we want you to feel like you're just hanging out, right, in a room. And that's what we hear mostly, right? Is people are like, I just feel like I'm hanging out with my friends when we're listening to you guys. um and it evolved because our first episodes aired February of 2020, and we know what happened. So we had to pivot right away. We had to we had 4 or 5 episodes that went out in February, and then the world shut down. So we had to start doing recordings on over Zoom and doing all kinds of different stuff to adapt, and finding different guests, because now we had the ability to be international even, right? So we have guests that from Canada. We had a guy from the Netherlands that was volunteering with Doctors Without Borders and got held hostage by Chechnyan rebels for 20 months, Islamic extremists. And so we talked to him, and um uh we talked to a viral TikToker just about like her sphere of influence and what that looks like. And we've talked to my parents. We've brought our husbands on. So we really, our goal is to create content that if we can have an impact on one person, and we get a message every episode of, wow, that was powerful. This was my takeaway. Um, and this is where, you know, we see our show going. We're doing some live events this year, finally, thank God. We're going to be doing a vision board event, a workshop, and we're going to build up and do like hopefully in the fall, we'll be able to do a big party, which is what we were planning in 2020, but we know what happened. Um, and yeah, so I think that there's room for those conversations, and, we make it fun and funny. And I think our dynamic is such that, it doesn't take a whole lot to get a lot out of it.
Yep. I agree. It's a wonderful listen. Girls Who Do Stuff, you can find it pretty much anywhere you want to listen to podcasts. But again, they have people who have been through stuff and love sharing stories. They've made an impact one way or the other. They go. And if you even have a remote thought of, gee, what is my brand? Please go to jennymidgley.com and set up a time to chat with her to get a better understanding of, because you may think it's one thing and it's really not. And it's kind of good to know, especially if you own a business, you kind of want to know what your brand is or what people think you are. So Jenny, it's been a lot of fun today. I always enjoy my time with you.
Always.
We always funny things to talk about. If you'll hang on afterwards for a second. But folks, again, Jenny's in RD24 Apex Business Builders. It's Thursday mornings at 8:30.
Oh, whoa, 9 o'clock. We just
what?
For 2022, we moved it back to 9 o'clock.
Oh, 9 o'clock. Wonderful. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
So it's brand new information. It's fine.
All right.
So it's Thursdays at 9 on
there
Zoom.
You go. I appreciate that. And please go to jennymidgley.com. Check out all the services she can help you with. But again, you got to solve a problem. Instead of being like, hey, hire me, I am awesome. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Nobody, that doesn't draw people to you.
No. Hey, I'm awesome, and I can help you do XYZ.
There you go. So anyway, Jenny, it's been a blast having you on today. Good luck with the new year, and I'm sure we'll keep up with you and Scott and the Midget and the Midgelette through social media. It's been a lot of fun, and we'll see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.